Good afternoon, all. I see we're trying to get the recording going here. So let me give it 2 seconds and then we'll get going. There we go. Thank you very much. Firstly, welcome to today's info session. Thank you for joining us at the School of Financial Services at Millpark and for joining us for this info session today, which primarily concentrates on the PGDip in financial planning. So thanks to all of you who have joined us. We look forward to giving you some more information as to kind of what to expect for the 2024 academic year ahead, and just give you a bit of a highlights and high-level view of what the PGD in financial planning entails, who the important characters are within that journey, and what that journey will look like going forward. To begin with, I just want to quickly introduce everyone in our panel today. Let me start with, you know what, I'm going to switch things up. I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves. Gerrie, you can go, you can wait till the end before I introduce you, but we can start from top to bottom. Go get them, Brunilda. Good luck.
Thank you, David. Okay, so I'm Brunilda Gerber. I am the Deputy Head of School of the School of Financial Services, and the PGDip is very close to my heart. For the last 3 years, I've been taking care of the PGDip, and I've now handed it over to Gerrie van der Merwe, who will chat to you about it soon. But yes, I am a certified financial planner. I have a PGDip in financial planning. I started with a BCom in law, did my law degree, did a master's in law, and then decided I wanted to go the PGDip route. And then subject to that, I also did an advanced diploma in estate and trust administration. So yeah, that is my big love, is trusts and estates. But yeah, in the PGDip, I've worked with several of the modules. I've worked on the tax module, I've worked with the estate and risk planning module, and I've also this year worked on the induction and case study modules as well. But that's it from me, and I'm going to hand over then to Leanne Ferreira.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Leanne Ferreira, one of the lecturers, part of the team of lecturers that will be looking after you on the postgraduate diploma in financial planning. So I myself has walked the path of becoming a certified financial planner, started with a BCom in financial planning, and then decided to specialize all the way through the postgraduate diploma in financial planning, also one in investment planning, and then of course the Certified Financial Planner designation that I now hold proudly for roughly 12 years. And over the past 12 years as well, I've actually married my passion for the financial planning industry in practice, then with academics as well. So that is just a little bit of an idea of what you can expect from the lecturers on the postgraduate diploma. And then also, when there is some time, I'll give you some info on the online lecturers as well that are involved in the program.
Good afternoon. My name is Walia Dramat. I am the program manager for the postgrad financial planning qualification. So just a little bit about what I do as a program manager. I am the one that I complete the admissions or assist with the admissions and registrations. I'm also here to do exemptions, receive all the exemption applications, and in conjunction with the HOD, we then sit and decide which exemptions is possible. I'm also the person then at the back from the academics. I'm the administrative side, so I take the students through from the beginning to the end. I take you by the hand, make sure that everything is okay. If you have a problem, if there is a need for, you need to do an AC because you can't do an assignment or you can't do a test, I'm then the port of call that you'll then go via me. And then I will then take you and tell you what to do. So that in a nutshell is what I do as the program manager.
That's correct. So in the end, Wadia ends up being the link basically between the academic team, which is all of us you can see on the screen here, and you as the students. So in the end, she will be a very influential person in your learning journey as we go along. So yeah, thank you, Wadia, for introducing yourself. I was trying to think if I actually introduced myself earlier, but I think I didn't. So let me introduce myself now. My name is David Fenter. and I am the head of school for the Milpark School of Financial Services. I've been at Milpark for a number of years now, and I am and I've prior to Milpark, I worked in the investment management industry for close to a decade. Similar to everyone who actually works in the School of Financial Services, pretty much all the academics within the School of Financial Services have worked for 5-6+ years at least in financial services in the area of practice. And that is something which I know that we're very proud of, and something that we wear as a badge of honor from a point of view of that we see ourselves as a School of Financial Services run by financial services professionals for financial services professionals. And that is where we see ourselves as being differentiated from many of the other institutions. Now, today's session is going to be run by Gerrie van der Merwe. Gerrie is, as Brunilda alluded to earlier, he is the new HOD for financial planning. He's been in that role for a few months now, and he is also overseeing this program from next year. And so what I thought it'd be a good plan for us for Gerrie this morning to take us through with you guys all of some of the specific parts of interest with regards to the postgrad diploma in financial planning, talk you through what kind of your journey will look like, what the qualification look like, and some points of interest with regards to this qualification. So what I'm going to do is, I know that we've got the chat on the side. What we'll do is we will let Gerrie get going. On the side, Hanley, who's on the side, who's managing the chat on the side, will keep an eye on the different questions that come through. And if Gerrie doesn't get to those while he's just talking through his side of things, when we get to the Q&A at the end, we've currently planned to have about 20 minutes at the end for Q&A. We'll definitely touch on any of those questions that come through during the session. We'll chat through it at the end, but hopefully also maybe we'll get to it while we're going through. So let's see how it goes. We'll play it by ear. So with that being said, I want to just then hand over to Gerrie.
Thank you very much, David, and a warm welcome. Good afternoon to everybody. It's very nice to have you with us. I would have loved to see all your faces, but that's not possible, I think, on our bandwidth. And I just wanted to add something to Wadia's resume. Wadia is like the mommy of the qualification of the postgraduate diploma. You know, she takes care of you. Sometimes she needs to pull you back in line, but I'm extremely grateful to have Wadia. About myself, I don't know. As you can see, I brought my lucky tree. You can see there behind me, it's a baobab tree. And I think it's appropriate, the baobab tree. I've always liked it because it's quite different. And then 2 or 3 years ago, I found out that it's also a symbol of learning. And I think learning is actually, and academic learning is my passion. You know, academics and financial planning both lie close to my heart. I think both are industries that have massive potential to change South Africa. I think academics is one of the keys, one of the ways to turn our country around and to grow us into the future. And I also think that about financial planning. So I'm really in a sweet spot here, and I'm very happy to be in this place. So I suppose most of you, I wonder if we can check in the chat why you're attending this session today. I'm guessing a lot of you are interested in becoming certified financial planners. I wonder if you'd be willing to just mention something in the chat there. Just say CFP, I'm aiming for CFP, or why are you doing this? Why are you interested in registering for a certified financial planner? And I see the chat is very quiet. But if you, yeah, it'd be very nice to actually see why you're attending the session. I think we're very, like I said, I'm very happy to have so many people interested and in the qualification. I know that there are a number of institutions that offer the postgraduate diploma in financial planning. And then today is, I think, about why would you consider Milpark? I mean, we obviously would like you to come and study with us, but what would make, what sets Milpark apart? Every business is a little different. to other businesses, and what's the unique features and things that we have at Molpock that might interest you. And as we go through my reasons, I'll tell you a little bit about my story and how I ended up in financial planning and ended up in academics. I see there's a learning facilitator. That's fantastic. I know there must be some broker consultants and some actual financial planners and a whole bunch of different people in the session that all want to move ahead in their careers and maybe advance their understanding of financial planning. That's it. So I think I want to start off with, I think, probably the most prominent reason for me, or what sets Molpock apart, is that we fit really well into your working life. It's a really good, got a really good system for you to work and study and live life at the same time. And from my own experience, I think everybody in this room has done studying and working at the same time. And I think that's one of the messages we want to bring across, is we actually have empathy with you. We understand what it's like to skip that rugby game, to sit with your, sit and study with your books. We understand late nights. We understand taking care of kids and kind of trying to juggle family life and work responsibilities, deadlines. And our postgraduate diploma offering has evolved to try and meet those requirements. I think besides our structure and our system of delivery fitting well into work life and work-life balance, I think our personnel is one of the other key points. If you just look at the caliber of people that we have as lecturers, as guest lecturers, people assisting us in the contracting capacity, it's phenomenal. It's just sometimes when I look at these names, I'm like, wow, how did we get to that? Some of these people, when I did my postgraduate diploma a number of years ago, these were the big names in industry, and now they're working for Molpock and they're helping us, and I'm so impressed by that. I think the other thing about us is that our structure allows you to develop a bit of a deeper understanding of of the content, just some of the content. And I actually plan to do it the other way around, but it feels like I must actually talk about our offering and how we've evolved our offering to meet these needs. And the first thing I want to do now is show you. You may have heard or you may have read on the website that where most of the other postgraduate diplomas have a 4-module structure, ours is very different. And you may have wondered about that. It's like, what are these guys doing, or why have they gone a different route? And so I'm going to share just a summary of our postgraduate of our structure. All right. It looks like it's sharing on my side, so unless there's any problems, I'll start talking through it. And so when I did my postgraduate diploma at another institution many years ago, there were basically 4 modules: the financial planning environment, personal financial planning, corporate financial planning, and the case study module. So the financial planning environment was all about kind of setting the foundations for the qualification. It covered a lot of legislation that you need to comply with, your tax principles, kind of setting the scene. And it was the first introductory module. I remember it was a closed book module on the qualification that I did. And then you could do any of the other 2, personal or corporate. Personal financial planning. Let's talk about corporate first. So corporate has to do with all your business assurance solutions, employee benefits, and medical schemes. I think that was about it. And it's more or less manageable in a module. And then personal financial planning, you have to do everything else. Estate planning, retirement planning, and investment planning. Those 3 big units. And you ended up just kind of glancing over it, especially if you're studying part-time. You just have so much time, and you kind of like jump to the calculations and make sure you understand that, move to the next one, because there's so much to cover in that module. And then a couple of years ago, I've been with Molpock for almost 9 years now. And so I remember when we made the change, we said, this is actually not the best way to approach the delivery of this qualification, we're going to break it up into 3 modules to help us to delve deeper into these, because every one of these areas of these 3 modules is worth spending more time on to actually develop an understanding and develop that competence that people expect from somebody that has a postgraduate diploma. And so that is part of our unique offering. The other thing that we did is that we found that students, many of you sit in industry and you're in a certain, you've specialized in a certain area. You may be a broker consultant for an insurance company, so you work with a lot of risk products. Or perhaps you sit with one of the LISPs, you only work with investments and retirement planning. But you're a little bit sketchy on all the tax, you've done some studies on tax, but you can't quite remember how all of those things work. And so we realized that students need a refresher, need a kind of a reminder of the basics of the industry. And that's why we brought in the Induction to Financial Planning module. And in the induction, we revisit some legislation that's foundational, that helps you set you on your journey. We cover the tax up to an appropriate kind of before PGDip level to help everybody just remember how tax works if you don't work with tax that often. I think that happens a lot in the industry, is unless you work and you actually do tax returns for clients, you kind of forget how everything fits together. So it's a good refresher. And we also talk about products, all the different types of products. Now, something about my journey that's pretty interesting is I started in the industry without any background. I came from a financial management background. And so, believe it or not, I had to figure out what an endowment was. And many of the other products were unfamiliar to me. And in hindsight, I think it would have been very, very useful to have a module like the induction module and to actually look at that and just help me on my journey. And then finally, our offering ends up in a case study module. It's just, yes, Brunilda.
So I just want to also just mention, in the induction module, we also start with the financial calculator. Show students who are not familiar with the financial calculator how it works, and then the basic time value of money calculations, which is also a very, very important part of the financial planning process as well.
True. And the thing is, Brunilda, it gives you time. It just gives you a little bit more time to get to grips with it. One of the things I remember was just like, you get that financial planning handbook, and at first you want to try and work with it. You work through it from start to finish, and then you realize you don't have enough time, so you look for extra resources on the internet, and you're kind of jumping around. And the induction module gives you a little bit more time to get to grips with the basic concepts. And then, like all the other financial postgraduate diplomas, we end off in a case study module, which is one of the great features of this qualification, is that you do it in a practical way, where we give you, where you get case studies and you evaluate it in a holistic manner. Because the truth is, if you're a financial planner, clients come to you and they've got numerous different needs. They've got, a business client comes to you and you start looking at his business things and you realize his personal affairs aren't in order. So you have to do an estate planning for him. And his estate planning has an effect on his business planning. And you realize that, but wait a minute, his employees don't have employee benefits. So there's, you have to have that ability to give advice in a holistic way. And the case study model kind of forces you into that. But what's nice about the MOPOC structure is that it allows you to set your foundation well in all of the other areas before we start putting it together in an holistic manner. The other thing that we also did at that time is we switched over. So when I studied, you pretty much had semester or year modules. So you kind of you're studying all these modules all at the same time, or you have 6 months to focus on a module and you're kind of doing this. You're working in between, and then you have hectic deadlines, and you drop your studies for 2 or 3 weeks, and then you pick it up again, and you wonder, okay, which one should I spend time on now? What's the next one? And so we said, wait a minute, this isn't conducive to the type of in-depth insight that a certified financial planner needs to have. And we broke it down. We said you can only do one module at a time, and we're going to do it in focus sessions. And at the moment, our structure is that you're going to sit for 9 weeks with a module, or 10 weeks. I think those are the two, unless it's changed again. But Brunel, I think I'm right, still on the 9 and 10 week structure. Okay.
Yes, but it's still 9 and 10.
And so for 9 weeks, you have a set structure. Everything that you do, you have a set amount of content that you have to get through in a week, a topic that you have to work through in that week. And most of the weeks, the first 6 weeks, you've got assessments, many assessments, either an online test or an assignment to test your knowledge and to kind of make sure that you're on track, that you're tracking right. So we're keeping track with you. You pick up at an early stage if there's something you don't understand. And this focused nature helps students, we think, to engage with the material, to go into depth, get in, take the module, kind of really dive into, how something like retirement planning works. And then at the end of the period, you write your exam. And then you can decide what you want to do. We also realize that many of our students have busier and quieter periods. And so, I think a typical period that's a busy period for most people is your financial year end. And so what you can do is register for a module. And if you feel a need to skip one of the cycles, you can kind of park your studies just for one cycle while you're taking care of work and then pick it up again and, take your studies further. So I think that's that flexibility is another great advantage of studying at Millpark.
Yeah, let me maybe also just kind of re-emphasize some of the stuff you've mentioned there. So I think the most helpful changes that have come about then over that period has been moving away from, let's say, bigger chunks of material being worked through at a time. So let's say if you had four mod, either way, it's around 120 credits if you do a 4 module qualification or 6 or 7 module qualification. So what we did was we basically decreased the size of each of the modules to make it more easier to so you could actually focus on each area of the curriculum individually. And then over and above that, then we also then moved to a cycle program where one could concentrate on one module at a time. And I think we've seen results from a point of view of that has helped students in a way where they can then concentrate on one specific area at a time in 9 to 10 week blocks, where then you do the exam and then you can move on to the next block, and you can concentrate on each thing at each area of the curriculum at a time. And I think that there has been a give and take there, obviously, with regards to the structure, but it has been net a huge improvement overall. So I think that has been a huge help. And I mean, I think it's fair to say that there has been then the knock-on effect from point of view of when, as students, you have a more deeper, better understanding of being able to concentrate on each module at a time. That also helps one to prepare indirectly then for the PCE exams, those kind of instances where you'll go towards CFP. I don't know if you're going to get there soon anyway, Eddie, but I just want to kind of point the advantages of that out again.
Yeah, and I think, look, the feedback has been very positive on our structure. This alternative way of looking at it. One of the things that we just feedback from students and on how things are going is that our PCE success rate is somewhere between 12 and 20% higher than the average on other qualifications, just based on what we get back from the statistics that are available to us. And it's also, I think, just subjectively, the industry feedback, just the last little bit, we had the FPI convention last week and we were there and just talking to people in industry, in some way, we're becoming the academic provider of choice for many of the industry players, and we could see that happening, and people actually recognize Millpark, where perhaps 15 years ago we were a new player in the market. So we can see that success. We've had many students every year at the FPI convention. They kind of announced the top 5 and the top 3 students in the PCE exam. And the past couple of years, we've been very representative in those. We've had, I think most of the time, we've had between 2 and 3 at least in the top 5 students. We've
Yeah, and
had,
then last I think in 2022 we had the number one student.
yeah.
So that was
I think
also
we've had
very
more than
encouraging.
one number one.
Mm.
Wasn't it a couple of years ago we also had number one?
Correct. You are correct. I see. Sorry, Gerrit, I see there was a question on the side there, which I don't want to move on before we've actually answered. There was a question. What do you mean with a cycle? Meaning you can pause and stuff. Maybe explain what you mean by that.
All right. Okay, Kapila, thank you for that question. So what I actually mean is that instead of semesters, we just call it cycles. So we've got a number of cycles every year, or opportunities to do a module. And what I meant was that instead of having to register for a semester or a year module, you can, let's just register for a cycle that's about 2.5 months, and you can do one cycle, and you don't have to immediately register. Let's say you register for cycle 1 module, then you can skip cycle 2 and then continue in cycle 3 again. And that's what I meant. We don't always recommend that. I mean, you want to move forward and you want to get through the qualification and get it done. And if your pauses are too long, then it starts becoming difficult. Remember, the case study module at the end uses knowledge from some of the others, and the legislation changes all the time. So you want to keep on moving, but it does offer you that ability. And things happen in life. We've regularly got students that go through good and bad life experiences. People who suddenly find out that they're pregnant and they know this is the next step, and they want to pause their studies for a little bit. Sometimes more serious things, there's a little bit of flexibility around that, and helping students manage that the cycles do offer us. Then let's talk about the mode of delivery of MILPOC. So that's the other thing, I think, part of our recipe that's very nice. So the focused nature of sitting down and kind of doing the module for a number of weeks may not be that unique. I think some of you will have been exposed to like block weeks at universities, where you go into the university and you spend all week there and you study and you get into whatever qualification you have. What distinguishes us to some extent is that all our education is online. Everything is presented online. So there's no need for you to actually travel to attend a university. And our material is set up in a way, we're essentially a distance education institute that's delivered online. So the material is all available online, and what that does, so what we call it, the fancy word for it is asynchronous learning. You don't have to sit in a class in a specific time. You can actually do it when it suits you, because we know what it's like. We know some people are morning people and they want to study from 4 to 6 before they drive to work. Others would rather spend some time in the evening after they put their kids to bed, and they want to spend some time then and get the work in. We know that a lot of work's going to take place over the weekend, and our systems are set up to facilitate that kind of learning. So the content that we have, the online content, takes you through guides you through that content in that way, and it's available all the time. We also offer supplementary material enhancements to your study experience. So on the website, you won't just find content. It's not just documents and reading through all of the information. It's actually there's some videos. There could be additional exercises depending on the module. There's all kinds of different types of content to develop a well-rounded student. And you know what? In a qualification like the postgraduate diploma, the ultimate goal is to actually teach you how to think and evaluate to operate in unfamiliar circumstances. I remember when I finished my postgraduate diploma and I got into practice, legislation changes, and you've got to kind of like, oh, wow, I've never learned about this. It's new legislation. And what we're trying to do is to teach you to think and to evaluate a new situation and decide what the best practice is in that situation. I see there's a question in the chat that, okay, well, I'm going to answer it later. Thank you, David. Sorry, I thought we could answer it now. So, and I think,
you can happily answer it now if you'd like, with regards to that question there from Petros.
I think that is, I will answer that. So there's somebody who says, can we qualify for the PGDip with an NQF 6? Wadia, you are probably the best placed person to answer that question. Would you mind addressing that?
Not at all, Harry. The admission requirements for the postgrad is an appropriate bachelor's degree, which is on our NQF Level 7. So students who have an NQF Level 6 qualification, if that is the Advanced Certificate in Financial Planning, you are required to have both the NQF Level 5 and NQF Level 6 to be considered for the RPL process. So yes, students can apply if they have an NQF Level 6, but it needs to be both NQF Level 5 and NQF Level 6. You will then be put on a waiting list because unfortunately we can only accept 10% of students applying via RPL onto our qualification. So unfortunately there is a waiting list, and that waiting list we look at twice a year to see if we have the space available for students to get accepted via that process. The reason being is that the BCom is the ultimate entry criteria for the qualification. And the more BCom students we have, the more the 10% can obviously then increase. Okay, hope that makes sense.
And
Oh,
Wadia,
sure.
just to also then make sure that we specify, it's not any NQF 5 and 6.
It's specifically financial planning based qualifications. So your higher certificate in financial planning and then the advanced certificate in financial planning.
Thank you, Wadia. And just in case you wonder why we limited to 10%, that is actually something that that legislation restricts us to. It's not something that we've come up with, although it's probably, so just in case you wondered, we're not just limiting it arbitrarily. There's a reason why we don't take any more.
Absolutely, we would love to take everyone. Everyone.
Yeah.
But it's not possible. I see there's another question there in terms of how to apply for RPL. So Wadia, if you can maybe just answer that.
So the process for applying for RPL and for normal admission, if you have an appropriate BCom, is exactly the same. We will then see by the qualification that you have, which qualifications you have, and in terms of that, you then go into the pile of RPL. So it's exactly the same documentation that you upload, which is a copy of your ID, copy of your matric certificate. If you are married, for a female, it's a copy of a marriage certificate, a CV, a detailed CV, your transcripts, and as well as your certificates. So all of those documentation, both for RPLs and non-RPLs, is the same, exactly the same. Okay.
Thank you, Wadia.
So basically, Wadia does all the hard work on her side. You don't have to do the hard work to figure out the RPL. She'll figure it out for you.
I must say, Wadia covers a lot of ground in this qualification. All right, so let's pick up again. Last thing we spoke about before we moved to the RPL process was online learning and what it's like to learn online. One of the other So we also have some live classes where we actually do a session similar to this one and we work through it. I think the one thing I just want to position it as is that the live classes they're not classes like you would have at a traditional university per se, where you go into a class and somebody takes you through the content. They're more strategic interventions where we cover a specific topic of a specific section of the content that's more complicated to understand. So there's, some of that, or perhaps something as simple as giving you an outline of what the module is going to be like, so you know what to expect, or discussing the assignment, so you understand what's expected from you, discussing the exam process, so we also know how the exam will play out. And the good thing about these sessions are we record all of them. And again, it speaks to that, work-life balance. I can't make that specific time slot late afternoon. What am I going to do? Oh, that's fine. The recording is going to be up in a day or two. You can watch it whenever you want to. You can actually go back and watch that recording when you're busy studying for the exam at any point. So, it's just we're geared to try and help students in that way. Something else that we've got is we realize that you sometimes have questions, and you actually want to speak to somebody and don't understand this. And so we have an online lecturer somebody who looks after the course page that may or may not be the actual academic that's responsible for that. And they keep an eye on we've got a tutor forum on every course page. And a tutor forum is basically like a chat room functionality. And the idea behind that is any question that you have about the material, something you don't understand, you can post in that chat forum. And the academic or the person looking after that forum, the tutor or the online lecturer, will answer that question. Most of them are so quick on this, they answer it pretty much the next day. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer because some of them are still in industry as well. So they've got work responsibilities, but that's also an advantage. And I think it really works for something like, listen, I'm sitting late at night, I'm struggling with this estate duty calculation, I don't know where to go. To post the question while it's fresh in your mind, just think about how it compares to let's say a traditional university type that I used to study through, where you have to either make an appointment with the lecturer, wait a week or 2 or 3, or try and get them on the phone and discuss it over the phone. The other advantage of this function is that other students can see what you're asking, and there's sometimes the most wonderful discussions develop around your tutor forum questions, and students try and help you. Other students learn from the things that you've got. So it's just a wonderful mechanism to help students and take them through the process. So that's one of the support functions. What we also have to support our online environment is we have Wadia Dramat, the program manager. As you can see, he is a very important cog in our process. And Wadia looks after a lot of the administrative arrangements around the qualification. And she's definitely, a pillar of strength in that regard. So students that struggle with things in certain aspects, we also send you a physical study guide for every module. It's not your primary content. It's more of a guide, and it kind of does the same thing, that it explains it in a way that's easy for you to understand. Some of the more difficult concepts, you have to use it along with other material like your financial planning handbook, but it's written by common language experts. It's written by experts, and then we have like a common language editor going through that study guide and writing it in a way that makes it easy to understand. We've got very positive feedback about the study guides. And the reason why I jumped from Wadia to the study guides is if you don't get your study guide, Wadia is, she helps you with that, and she makes sure that you get that study guide. You also have access to that study guide in an online application. So on the course page, you've got access to the study guide either on a web app, or you can download it on a tablet or on your phone. And that also again speaks to studying in a convenient manner. Sometimes you have some time at work, maybe you're traveling, you're sitting on the plane, actually being able to access some of the resource material and working through that. That's great. And then we also have a team at our student service department, and you can send an email to, and they will help you with things like, listen, I can't get access to my course page, I'm struggling with this or that, and there's a process for all of these things. Some kind of way of solving your problem and making your experience at Molpok an enjoyable one. I think some of the things that I still wanted to talk about. Once you get through all the formative sessions, you've moved through your course, your exam is also an online exam. We help you prepare for the online exam if you haven't done something like this before. So you actually sit in front, you do it on the computer, on the course page, and you answer all of your questions there. Just think of the nice advantage this is. You can actually, most of our students write from their office, or you write from home. It reduces travel time, the inconvenience of going into a venue. You can actually write your exam. And if you're a very strong-minded person, go right into a client meeting an hour after that. Or you could write it on vacation if you're one of those people. I don't know if I would want to do that, but there's all kinds of benefits around the flexibility of that. And it's all facilitated on Molpok. We take you through that process, we set it up, and it's just an incredibly convenient way of doing it. I think initially when we started with online exams, we were a little bit, how's this going to work? And this is actually going to make sense. And I think I'm completely convinced that this is the better way of doing it, and that it's, I think for me, it's a better system than actually driving to a venue and, all of the things that can happen on your way to a venue. It's just more convenient, and I think again fits into your work life.
No, and I think just to add there, Gerry, I think that the online exams has provided us with an avenue through which we can, as you say, there can be convenience for students. Students can write anywhere on the day of the exam. Then also because of new technology and because of AI, etc., we're able, with the technology we use for online exams, we're able to then remotely proctor the exams, as opposed to having to go to a venue where you're proctored at the venue. So I think there's all these little advantages which have come about, obviously, with the development of various technologies. And given that Milpark education as a whole, our strategic bent is towards being an online education provider of choice, I think it's making sure that as much of the process is fully online, and in a asynchronous fashion as well, is useful. And so that these additional technologies has definitely assisted us in being able to provide that kind of the ability and obviously flexibility, which then makes everything more convenient for students. So I think that's been hugely useful. And obviously then there's slight learning journeys we have to go on kind of to understand how to use that technology. But to be honest, it's pretty straightforward. And as Gerry says, we do walk you through that process as to how to do that. And it's been a wonderful add-on. Sorry, Gerry, back to you.
No, that's fine. David, I think I've covered most of the important things that I wanted to talk through. And I think at this point, I'd like to hand over to Brunilda to maybe just talk about the type of lectures that we have. Maybe Leanne can come in there as well. And I'm going to step a bit into the background at this stage.
Thank you very much, Gerry. So, like Leanne mentioned now earlier, so we've got our normal lecturers, and then we've got our online lecturers, which she mentioned, and Gerry now explained to you what an online lecturer is. But just in terms of what we previously also said, that our lecturers are all people with industry experience. So we're very proud to say that we've got, I can't even recall between all of our lecturers, we actually did an ad.
It's hundreds and hundreds, it's hundreds of years.
So a lot of experience within our school, and it's we're very passionate about that as well, that we use people that actually understands the industry and not just from an academic perspective. So I think it brings a fresh perspective to the academic side as well. So just on the PGDip, the lecturers that you will meet in 2024, so I'm like I mentioned, I'm moving away from it. So Gerry van der Merwe will be the lecturer on the induction module, but he's actually, Wadia is responsible for that induction module, and we have another assistant there, Nadia Kilian, who also assists the students on that, but the ultimate responsibility will lie with Gerry van der Merwe, and he will then also be responsible for the case study module. So you will encounter Gerry at the start of your course, and then at the end, he will be there to hold your hand at the end of it as well. So the other modules, like Leanne mentioned, she is responsible for retirement planning. On our risk and estate planning, we have Tamsin Gradwell. She's also been in the industry for quite a bit of time, also fond of the fiduciary services, and also a certified fiduciary practitioner of South Africa. And then on our investment side, we have Jurgen Miller, who is a CFA. And he's also been with Milpark for quite some time, and he's done some exceptional work on the investment side. Investment module is typically the module that most of our students struggle with, but Jurgen has made a massive change to how our students experience that and just understand investments in general. So yeah, Jurgen has got a background, CFA background, and then also he's been, like I said, with Milpark and in the academic sphere, and been an online lecturer for investment planning for quite some time. We also have some new additions to the team as from next year, well, that joined Milpark this year, but on the PGDip, our new additions on the environment module, which is our tax module, we have Linka Porter. Linka, she has a background in tax, and she also did her BCom with a tax background. She worked in tax industry as well, and then she worked for a financial services company with financial immigrations mainly as their main feature, which then ultimately changed to a tax process, as you all might know. So she's very well versed in all the taxes and everything that you need to know about. She's also obviously a certified financial planner. And then we have our newest addition to the team is Renal Boertes. With 22 years of industry experience, she joined us about 2 months ago. And Renal will be taking over the corporate financial planning from Harry. So yeah, we're also very excited about that knowledge that she comes with. 22 years in industry is quite a bit of time. So yeah, we're very excited about our new additions to the teams as well. And yeah, we just, in general, I think excited about our lecturers and what they bring to the team as well. Leanne, I don't know if you want to add anything else on there.
Yes, sure. What I also wanted to add a couple of minutes ago is just that as lecturers, we also get very involved. So the 9-10 week process when you do a module is very interactive. So you would be talking to myself, Wadia, and your online lecturer almost on a daily basis. So from the academic side, I just want to emphasize as well that even though it's distance learning and you have the flexibility and you can do this in your own time, you are not alone during the 9-10 weeks. So Harry mentioned we have 2 live sessions, so you'll be able to interact with myself, for example, on my module. And then the same, so there's opportunities to really, take advantage of the experience of your lecturers. It is an absolutely interactive platform. It is not you sitting behind your study guide and then only writing the exam or completing your assessment. So the whole idea is that we want to share our knowledge and experience with our students. So if you do partake in this, the idea is to be very interactive, and we are more than willing and able and available really within that 9 to 10 weeks to share everything that we can with you as the students. And then in that same breath, someone has mentioned it, but that allows you to get updated content from our side. So we take a lot of time to make sure that we are updated with the industry and what is going on. So you will see that study guides are updated regularly. We do not use the same assessments over and over, for example. We make it as practical as possible. And you wouldn't be able to get that if we haven't as well spent some time in the industry. So that really does make a difference when it comes to the distance learning environment, but then having the academics there to support you in every module.
I think there was a good follow-up question that came in. I'm actually quite happy because this is our Q&A time, so it's great that we're getting questions coming through. Keep sending them. A question we have here, Bruni, which I think you can probably answer, is I wanted to kindly ask if the case study, in the case studies, will students be tested on doing full comprehensive financial plans for a future client?
Okay, so just before that, there's another question, David, that I also just want to answer. So the structure of the final case study in terms of the exam. So our case study module normally has 5 hours in which you write your exams, and half an hour before the exam opens, you are provided with a case study. So we give you a client with all the details that you might require for that client, and then when you can read through it, make notes, and then as soon as your time starts for the exam, open up and see what questions we've asked. So yeah, so basically, yeah, it's set up in the actual case study. We provide you with an actual case study and then questions that follow on that. So out of that, we might ask you to do the full analysis for an estate planning or the full retirement analysis, or whatever the situation might be. So that is how it's set up. Our current exams, we don't actually provide for a full financial plan, but we are looking at that because of the changes in the financial planning industry and the FPI. We are heading towards that in 2024, where our case study module will then entail of you to actually set up a full financial plan. Because obviously that is the ultimate that we are now working towards with the PCE exams that is falling away and the different structure that's coming into place.
And just on that note, sorry to interrupt, Brunhilde, but they are actually even considering bringing in software into that final exam, so that you would do the entire needs analysis on a software program, which is ultimately what you do when you do spend your time in practice after you've studied, the calculations in the background to that. So we also want to prepare you to be able to do that and pass that exam with flying colors. So we definitely need to start building that into the case study so that you are prepared.
Yeah, that's a great point. So that is a great point. A follow-up question from Nikki from earlier, which was, how long do the seven modules take all in all?
Okay, so Wadia, do you want to go?
Nikki, that is dependent if you are a BCom student or an RPL student. A BCom student would basically take about, say, 18 months to complete. So we provide you with a study plan. Obviously, we want you to complete the qualification in the quickest way. It's actually 3 years to complete, but you can complete it within 18 months. Then our RPL students, they will take a little longer, like 2 years, because they have a set criteria that they need to complete in terms of the modules before they complete the rest of the qualification.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Didrak asks the following question. Does the course consist more of planning or analysis?
So I want to almost, I see Leanne smiling, but I want to say it's a very solid both. So we do a lot of analysis, but we also, from the analysis, you need to be able to actually advise your client and plan and say, okay, this is what we need to do. So you do both in the course. So it's definitely not just analysis and not just like a planning or advising part of it. It's definitely a combination of both.
Right. Okay, I think we've answered all of the questions that we've got so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow...
I see that there's just a remark about the software. So if and when we use software, we will definitely make that available beforehand. We won't expect you to be able to run the software in the exam. That might be a shock to the system. So we definitely won't do that. So when we bring it in, it will definitely be part of some of your assessments, so some of your tests or some of your assignments in which you will be able to use it. So, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can just clarify on that, Brunhilde. Yeah, so the idea of incorporating that is actually when you get to your board exam. So when you sit and you actually write for your CFP designation. So that's what the FPI is now thinking of, introducing that. So from our side, when you complete the PGDip, we really want to prepare you with the analysis/planning. And also remember, we incorporate the 6 steps of the financial planning process throughout this entire program. So you will do the analysis and then you will do the advice and recommendations, and then bringing that all together to have you prepared to take that board exam that is offered by the FPI.
Yeah, so that's very helpful. I think I see we're drawing close to the end of our allotted time for the evening. And I know that many people have planned around the session's timing. So I thought it's probably a good time. I see that questions have subsided on our side, so I think it's a good time to start closing off the session. But before I do that, I just wanted to say, firstly, thanks to Gerry, who had to leave early, as well as Brunilda, Leanne, and Wadia, just for joining us today and for answering some of these poignant questions that are that have been raised. So firstly, thank you so very much for your time this evening. Thank you to all of those who joined us today. Through joining us, obviously we know that there is interest in our program. So please feel free to reach out if you have any follow-up questions and or questions around how to go about being admitted onto the program and or questions around this. So I just want to say thank you again. Thanks to everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing some of you on our program in 2024 and walking the journey with you. Milpark's new slogan is "You've got what we've got you, and you've got this," and it's you've got this and we've got you. And I think the key is that is a slogan which we are basing much of our work around to ensure that we as an institution are providing you with an educational journey that fits in with your life, while giving you the best opportunity that you can actually get through the content, be able to understand it, and apply it in the real world working environments. So that is what we're aiming to do in the years going forward, and we take that very seriously. We don't take it just as a slogan, and we look forward to you experiencing that if and when you join us in 2024. Thank you so very much for your time, and all the best for your evening ahead. Cheers all.